And welcome back to episode 129 of the Weekly Tech Rant with me, Jay.
And me, Carl.
Well, we are back with a slightly extended break from last week due to the Easter holidays and various days off in
Life
between.
getting in the way.
Life getting in the way, yeah. God damn it, life, how dare you? But we are back for this week's roundup of the latest tech news stories. And, well, I think we've got quite an eclectic mix this week, haven't we?
We have.
We are going to talk E3, Amazon, Google, Twitter, 4G on the moon. Yes, that's it. And we're also going to talk about the new Steve Jobs book that has been released as well. And plus, are Apple bringing back an iPod, or is this some weird, strange patent that may never see the light of day? More to come on that at the end of the show. So let's kick off then this week's story, first week's story, which is the cancellation of E3. So if you're wondering what the hell is E3, well, E3 is or was the premier gaming conference, wasn't it? That was held in Los Angeles, where typically all of the big gaming companies would turn up. They'd show you their wares. There'd be massive stalls, stands, wouldn't there? You'd be able to game the all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But for 2023, it's over, isn't it? It's done. It's not happening.
Oh, I think COVID was the nail in the coffin on that one. It'd been, I think, declining numbers and attendees, but yeah, they were trying to put on this. This was going to be the first in-person event since obviously COVID. But yeah, big names started to drop rapidly, didn't they? We lost Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, Sega, Tencent, and Ubisoft. I'm not sure who there is left, but yeah, I think that was the final nail. And they went, nope, shut up shop and go home.
I think, to be honest with you, I think what this is a product of acquisitions, possibly, isn't it? If you think about it, because if you look at, I think a lot of the studios that would have had big presences, they've been hoovered up by another big company. And like you say, I think COVID probably was the death knell, because apart from CES, all the other major shows have suffered, haven't they?
They have, yeah. To be honest, even before COVID, some of the big ones started doing their own events. Nintendo haven't really been to E3 in quite a while. They do the Nintendo Live event, or Nintendo Direct, or whatever it's called. Microsoft do their own one as well now. And actually, a lot of these guys will be doing their own one around the time of E3, just not at E3.
No, and this is it, isn't it? That's the other thing. They want to control the narrative. You know, these E3 shows are fantastic. You've shown up. But actually, if it's your show, you control the narrative, you control the audience to a degree, you control the messenger, don't you? You're not kind of going to drop your announcement at the same time that Sony around the corner at their booth are going to do their announcement, isn't it?
Sharing the spotlight, are you?
No, you can exactly. And given, as you say, things like the whole Blizzard acquisition piece, we got Ubisoft working with others. There's a lot going on here that means that I think you're right. The big players, the key players, having their own shows, delivering their messaging, their launches, their exclusive launches, cough, cough, Call of Duty. I think it's definitely the way forward. I think it's probably what we're going to see. I don't think it's dead. It probably will come back, but I don't think it'll be the major show that it is today, is it?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the organisers are saying that they're going to be working on future E3 events, but I can't see it happening. I can't see there being another live.
No. One. If you think of other shows, if you think of other similar conference shows, expos, CES and Mobile Congress are the two that I think of. CES being, the Consumer Electronics Show we talk about a lot every year, and that's starting to wane, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it has.
You don't see the big players there too much now, unless they've got something really stunning they want to do. They're starting to pull back. That's becoming almost kind of a niche kind of prototype release place, isn't it? Rather than every big company under the sun turns up. Mobile Congress, well, again, COVID did a number on that. And we saw all of the big players start to drop out. And again, you look at the big players themselves, they don't turn up anymore, do they? Samsung have a presence, but they don't announce anything at the show. They have their own Unpacked event. And the same with Apple. Apple don't show up there.
I don't think Apple have ever been there, have they? Or not for a very, very long time.
No, not at all. That's not their thing either. So again, what we're seeing here is, I think, you're right. The product of changing market trends and the change in what these big players want to do. They want to run their own messaging. I'd be keen to see this turn back to almost kind of low level devs.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
kind
small
of
indies
what's
and
the
stuff like that.
yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Indie. Thank you. I knew there was an indie show where people could demonstrate, show off the latest releases, maybe concepts around gaming technology, that kind of stuff. What's that? There is another show like it. Is it Penny PAX? Isn't it PAX show?
Oh, is
Um,
it?
yeah. So there's PAX, which is the Penny Arcade convention. I think it's Penny Arcade. Yeah, PAX East and PAX West, which are um exactly the same sort of thing. They are what I think it was. I'm sure it's Penny Arcade. I might be wrong. I'm probably talking out my rear end at this point. But they were kind of gaming culture shows where there were people could buy and sell. There was kind of guests. There was all kinds of AAA developers down to the latest indies, showcasing stuff. You could have like LAN gaming. There were consoles there, that kind of stuff. That's the
Okay.
kind of show I think exists. E3, I think you're right, is dead. I think despite the best
Yeah.
case, it's dead.
And so even if you could turn it into an indie one, I guarantee the organisers of E3 are charging way too much for a stand for indies to actually be able to afford.
Yeah, this is it. When one of these stands turns out to be the best part of like $500,000, doesn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
it's crazy.
it is crazy money, and I think who in their right mind is going to pay it if it's going to cost you that when you could spin up your own let's say Nintendo Direct, do it virtually from a studio. That's
Yeah,
probably a $500,000 there, isn't it, all in one go, and you're
yeah,
controlling everything,
yeah. It's
because
just not going to do it.
so Microsoft obviously they've got an upcoming one in June, haven't they? I think is their next one, is it, the showcase for Xbox.
Oh yeah, yes they have. Yeah,
So where we believe that's going to be mainly Starfield launch.
yeah, that's going to be the big one.
But Starfield comes out the 6th of. I use Starfield as an example here of a major AAA title, which effectively is going to have its own launch event to a degree, isn't it? You're going to
Basically,
have that as part of the Xbox announcement, but we know that that is effectively going to stand on its own 2 feet, and it's probably the same way that Nintendo do with the Direct, isn't it? Where they talk about where they remember they launched, was it the OLED Switch, wasn't it? And they talked
yes.
about that. You know, to me, there's one company you have to look at here that I think also has kind of shaped the narrative of these events, and it's our friends in Cupertino.
Yeah. Well, they haven't been there for a very long time, but they do it very, very slick now, and it's all down to they've got that nailed now. The format, it doesn't change. It's all sparkly and shiny, isn't it? And yeah, you know exactly how it's going to be, but it works. It does a very good job of selling the products.
And I think perhaps and again, it's just my assumption. I wouldn't be perhaps the others have looked at them and gone, you know what? If Apple can carry it off every single time post COVID and continue to have sales increase because of that,
Yeah.
then why can't we run effectively a large scale Hollywood commercial?
Well, yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so then E3 as it exists today is no more. Who knows what will come out of
Mm.
the ashes of E3? But we will report on the Xbox showcase, and I believe that I think it's an Uber. I'm sure I wrote in my notes somewhere. There's an Ubisoft one as well. I think the same week or the same
I
day even.
imagine so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll catch up on those with the launches of those in a couple of months' time. But yeah, bye bye E3. Even though I never attended, I'll miss you anyway. So
Right.
what a
Oh
yes.
yeah, yeah. So you know all those cheapest chips, Echo devices from Amazon. They've been
Well,
flogging them for
like you've got
years
in
now.
your house right
Like I've
now.
got about 8 or 9 of them, but I'm not going to say the word because it'll all go crazy. But if you didn't know, they've all had a secret chip in them that kind of enables a low power, low bandwidth, long range IoT network. It's called Sidewalk. It leverages your internet connection, but basically allows it to bridge to all your IoT devices using this network and give them internet access. And they've kind of started allowing it to be rolled out to developers now, haven't they? And they're actually saying that over 90% of the US population is served by this secret network that no one knew about.
It's just, I mean, this is one of those kind of reveals, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
aha, look what we've got. It's like, I mean,
Mhm.
are we first off, right? Are we shocked that this exists?
No, no, not at all. I mean, it has been being used. I mean, there are a couple of devices out there already using it. Obviously, mainly Amazon ones. I think their Ring cameras can use it to send motion notifications when they're offline or when they're not connected to Wi-Fi, I should say. Level smart locks, I think they're owned by Amazon as well. They use that to to connect to the internet without actually needing Wi-Fi radios in the locks themselves, okay, saving power and stuff. And there's a couple of other wearable health trackers that can leverage this network.
Yeah, and I guess just to kind of take a step back a second, to kind of understand where this came from, Sidewalk was actually developed by Ring. So this isn't an Amazon technology per se, is it? It was developed by
Yeah.
Ring as part of their doorbells to kind of get over the problem of you've got a doorbell outside your house, yet you've got a thick wall in the way. How do you get that network communication to talk to the router or whatever, isn't it, inside? So they developed this protocol, isn't it? And it's the 900 megahertz, isn't it? So
Well, it's a
very
mixture
good.
of Bluetooth Low Energy, 900 megahertz, but there's also one called LoRa, which is like a
That's the
long
one. Yep,
range.
that's
Yeah,
it. Yeah. So it's quite. I mean, I think it's let's take it. When we to strip it back, forget Amazon, forget there. Actually, this is a very simple solution to let's be honest, what
yep,
is a big problem, which is device communication. And
yep,
in this world of IoT, OT devices that we live in, they have to communicate. I think what was eye-opening for me was the map that Amazon produced of the United States,
yep. It is
because
crazy.
effectively the whole East Coast to middle of America was
Yep,
blanketed, wasn't it?
it was. And
Absolutely
most of the West
blanketed.
Coast as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, so you can buy. So this is obviously, you say it's working with the we won't say the name devices. It's working
Yep,
with the doorbells, but
yep.
apparently you can. I believe there's a developer kit as well, isn't there? That
There is a
Amazon
developer
has.
you can go and buy to prototype this. Yeah, and that's kind of available now, and they're trying to get developers on board. Of course, you have to use Amazon EC2 infrastructure and stuff like that to get your data out. So there's a whole interweaved cell here, isn't there?
Well, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But the bit that makes me laugh, so I remember when they announced this, or actually, sorry, they pushed this out in 2019, but they initially pushed this out on the firmware with no opt out. It just on by default, no opt out. Of course, there was a bit of a backlash, and Amazon pushed a new firmware allowing you to opt out. But only us techie guys will ever know about the opt out or even what it was. I think you have to opt in on new devices now, but most people just hit yes, won't they? And go through the setup wizard. And I think this is how they got that 90% coverage.
Yeah, and in a kind of funny kind of way, in a terrifying alternative reality of AI taking over the world, you've got a great communication model here, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
this is like those films and those programs, where an rogue AI escapes, but how does it seem to get everywhere and communicate everything? Well, ultimately, this is that kind
Using
of
your Echo
network.
device.
Yeah, exactly. That dev kit though. So the dev kit you can request, as you say, that has the puck or whatever as a so you can request one of those as a developer. There's no charge at the moment. I'm tempted to have a go. See
US
what
only,
we.
though.
Well, yeah, but there's always a
Not
way,
going
a
to
will
work
and
in
a
the
way.
UK. Get on a plane.
Yeah, full well that this exists over here. Let's not.
Well,
Let's
it is,
not
but I
take
don't think they've not rolled out the firmware turning this on, allegedly.
Allegedly, I would hasten to say that it exists. I mean, if you we've got the link in the show notes, and I have there where you can see the map. I mean, and it is just like I said, if you zoom out of the continental US, it's just blue. It's blue basically from the East Coast to what's the state, Kansas, basically to Kansas, and then bizarrely, I don't know if you know, it's in the middle in Colorado around Denver. That's solid blue as well in the middle of America.
Shipping a lot of
Um,
devices there.
there's a lot of devices, but yeah, I have to say I'm particularly interested in this. I'm interested from a security standpoint as well in understanding what is going on here with this. I'd like to hope that security has been built in from the design perspective.
Security costs money.
But given what this control can communicate with, I should say, which is everything in theory, isn't it?
Yeah.
I do have some concerns, but none. Those are unproven at this time. They're just
Of
more,
course.
I guess, professional curiosity. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, so you can see why it's that big. I mean, I'm sure I've even bought some of these devices for like £5 at some point in some
Yeah,
Amazon sale. And at that point, then even people who weren't interested, they're no-brainer money, aren't they?
yeah,
They're
but
like,
that's
oh,
it.
give it a go, plug it in. Yeah, and there you go. Network expanded.
I was just going to say that is exactly the point there. It is all about getting it in people's houses, and what's the best way to do that? Do it as a loss leader, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh,
Make it so attractive, like you say.
yeah.
Um, why wouldn't you buy it? Like exactly your point. £5. I don't need it, but I'll have that
At that
anyway.
point, I was like, yeah, I'll stick one in each of the kids' rooms. There's one in the utility room, just everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'll take that. It's like what? Hang on a minute. It is just the way to do it. And I think when we talk about one of their competitors in a minute, I think they also probably haven't been capitalized on this as well. But
Mhm.
Amazon particularly, I think, have been very smart here around getting this out into the market. And you're right. Ultimately, I would be curious to know what the end goal is here. Well, I think we know. Well, actually, no, I'll rephrase that. I know what the end goal is here. The end goal is here is to have an IoT network that they can leverage, across
Show to
everything,
other people.
communicate.
Yeah.
But what I'm curious about is what else they plan to do with it. In that meantime,
I'll
that's
be
my
interested to see. So,
yeah.
yes, this other loss leader, Google, or Google Assistant, should we
Yeah,
say?
tell us more.
Mm. Well, I suppose it was bound to happen. It's a Google product after all, and apparently Google Assistant's division has had it's been reshuffled. Bizarrely, heavily prioritized Bard over Google Assistant.
Yes.
So, I mean, the Google Assistant division, they don't just make, not just the voice assistant itself, but they also do all the hardware, such as smart speakers and displays that Google have been making. But when I read this article, there is a bit of a telling sign, isn't there? All these things they've cancelled over the years. They've not even had any hardware since 2021 released. So no new, is it, what they call them now? Then they're not called, they're called Nest, aren't they? Is it
They are
Nest?
called Nest. Yeah, Nest.
Nest Hub and Nest
Well,
Hub
they
Max.
rebranded it all, didn't they? After the
Yeah.
acquisition.
They did. So surprisingly, right, it's never made any money in this division. The hardware is sold at cost. There are no ads, and nobody pays a monthly fee, obviously. So, yeah, this is Google just pouring money away with no kind of real vision of how to actually make their money back. I think, obviously, we spoke before on this show about Amazon. I think there was a report a couple of months back about
Yeah.
Amazon basically losing 10 billion a year for their voice assistant. So I can only imagine Google probably losing somewhere around that figure as well, maybe. I'm not sure how popular it is compared to Amazon's one.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think. So I've got what was a Google Home Hub, Nest Hub now,
Yeah.
and it just we've said this before. The only way to describe it is it just doesn't have the functionality of your particular brand of person.
Yeah, I've got a couple of Google ones, and I played with them for like, I don't know, half an hour, and they went back in the box. I think I got them free through some
Yeah, so I've got the
program or whatever.
pucks.
I got a couple of the pucks. I think one of
Yeah,
them's still sealed in a box. Maybe I'll keep
so
that for 10 years and sell it.
I've got a couple of pucks, and I've also got one of the mini home hubs with a little
With the
screen just
display,
sat
yeah.
behind me,
Yeah.
which I'd love to work. But you and I both, keeping operational security in place. The organization that we work for uses Google as a service provider, like many other companies do. And I thought, brilliant, I could use that to display my work calendar and everything on it. But we, for reasons which we won't go into, that's not possible to do. That's not possible to do. So it's kind of redundant because I moved away from having I don't use Google Mail anymore as my personal mail, so it's kind of redundant, and it just sits there now on the side. I turned it off. It was I'd never really used it, but the assistant was reasonably good. It was better than She Who Should Not Be Named.
Oh, everything's better than that. I mean, even what was Microsoft's one? Cortana was better than that.
Yeah, that's true. Cortana was better than that, but I think there's an interesting view here to move to Bard, or what under the covers is Lambda, isn't it? I think this is a step that we're going to see all of them move towards, having natural language AI response, the same way, as much as I love ChatGPT.
You do?
The fact that you can talk to, if you want to, there is a way to talk to it. It will do natural voice, language support. Because ultimately that's one thing we've talked about every time when we talk about AI, or sorry, assistants. You and I both agree. You want to talk to it and ask it a question and get a response back. You don't want to be told by a particular person, please take out your iPhone and I'll show you the results on that. No, that's not what I asked for.
You have to think about the right way to speak to it.
The prompt, isn't it? Yeah.
The prompt. It's like, oh, right, well, is that going to work? Now, how would I make that one actually work? And it's not natural, is it?
No. But to take a step back to what you said about the list of things that what they've done to Assistant and killed it. I mean, you've got to ask a question here: is what actually is Google interested in doing? Because when you read that list, that basically between 2016 and 2021, they had 8 releases of hardware. They've stopped. They've removed the product. They've removed the support assistant from 2 of their own brand of equipment. They've lost patents. They've shut down the driving side of it. They've removed one of the was it the reminder feature and swapped it
Yep.
out for another product. And it's nothing. It's just yeah. But and I think if you said this yourself, the what Amazon themselves, and we talked about this a little while ago, Amazon themselves are not making any money either here, are they?
No, not at all. They could be selling them at cost or below cost, especially in their sales. And Amazon have quite a few sales, and their own brand stuff's always in the sales, so they're definitely making a loss there. But no one's really figured out how to monetize it.
No, how do you monetize it? Without no, no, I've answered my own question. I know how you monetize it. You monetize it by stripping the data and basically mining the data and the request. That's how you monetize it.
It is, but there's a lot more computational power that goes into doing that and converting audio to text that you can then mine than it is just people's search results.
Yeah, that is exactly what you're going to be doing with it.
Is the payoff going to be? Will it justify the computational power to do that?
The problem is now, though, we've gone too far down the rabbit hole that they can't back out of this now. We are in.
Google
We are.
They kill wildly successful products. They don't
Google
care.
will.
They'll just kill it.
Google will, but I don't think. I don't think.
Bowed out. I don't think Amazon will.
Amazon won't. Microsoft definitely. Microsoft are that investment into OpenAI proves the point that Microsoft are not backing out. We have entered the new age. We are in a new information age now with this level of machine learning capability. And I challenge anybody to tell me that this is not different. This is different from some of the other the assistants. This is not your shoe should not be named, your box that repeats itself and Cortana. This is at a whole different level now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's the point now. These language models, these what they call them large language models, are way beyond anything that has existed before. And I think any of these companies wants to have this assistant functionality, because that's what, if you look at all of the sci-fi films, the ones that what exists, everybody has the capability to talk to some virtual assistant, don't they, that does it.
They do.
And if you go into Star Trek, for example, what's the one thing that they all talk to? The computer.
Yeah, of course.
And that ship computer or whatever is natural language requests, but in the same way you'd ask ChatGPT or whatever, it does it, doesn't it? It mines the data, it searches, correlates, compare data set A with data set B, give me the whatever, and it spits it out. And, on a kind of very simplified version, that's what we're doing now with this new AI models. We're in that kind of same viewpoint. And I think what we've got here with the classic Google Assistant is just dead in the water. Who wants that? Tell me what my emails are, tell me what my next meeting is going to be. Great. What you want is, right, tell me meetings, clear my calendar for tomorrow, please set me up a recurring response, blah blah blah. And it's going to do it, isn't it? That's what it's going to do. Will Bard do that? I don't know. From what I've seen of Bard versus ChatGPT, I'm not convinced.
No, to be late to the party. They've jumped on that bandwagon, haven't they? That's exactly what they're doing here. They're diverting all resources to Bard now because they reckon that's the next best thing. Or big thing,
like you said, how long for?
Who knows? But yeah, something else they're killing off that goes hand in hand. They're also killing off all the third-party Google Assistant products.
Yeah, this is
not that there were many. Lenovo
must be
a load of 7, 8, and 10 inch ones. So apparently, though, you can mod those and get Home Assist displays on them. So look out for some of those on eBay.
They're quite nice looking as well, aren't they?
They are quite nice looking. I want one of those by my bedside with a Home Assistant dashboard that I could actually customize on that. So I'm going to be looking into that one. But JBL had some, LG had some Smart Display, and I think the deal was that Google were providing patches for the underlying OS and looking after that. Well, Google have just killed that one off now. So, mind you, in all fairness, if you were any one of those guys, would you really have jumped into bed with Google? on a new product like this? I mean, I personally wouldn't look at a track record. You spend all that time and money building this for Google, like they've done, to kill it a year or two later.
I'd be asking serious questions of our marketing department if that was if that was the like yeah, it would be like, okay, are we paying Google or are Google paying us?
Yeah, Google's paying me, then yeah, let's do it. But no, if it's costing me anything, forget it.
That's what I mean. Because and what was puzzling with the whole Google thing is they their initial launches of the third party devices didn't actually follow the same sort of software guidelines, did they? That their own products thing.
No,
The third party ones around Android things. And remind me, Carl, what happened to Android things?
no, it was killed. But
That
the
was
thing is,
killed.
Google said that was the way you had to do it, that ignored it for their own product
Exactly.
and launched it on a different platform. I think it was Chrome based, wasn't it, or something
Yeah,
along
it
those
was.
lines?
It was.
Yeah.
So how long we got then before these are dead then? Because that's probably the question you got to ask yourself if you bought one of these, isn't it?
I think you've only got to like September, October, haven't you? There wasn't very long.
No, I was gonna say I did. I'm pretty sure when I read it, it was quite a small
Well,
period of time. But
they'll be stopping software updates or patches, so your device will probably carry on working up to a point that they change an API for one of the services you're integrating with, and then it'll just die.
oh dear. So just to kind of recap for those of our listeners that do a bit of the old home modding and home automation, was there a particular smart display model that
No, I'm
works with
pretty
it?
sure all of them. I've definitely heard of the 7-inch one. That was on my to-do list to have a look at those because they were going cheap, and obviously we know why now. But if maybe I can get some on eBay, route them, and then pick your own dashboards on them, they might be quite good.
Oh, there you go. That's a project for you then. We'll
Yeah, it's on my to-do list with many more.
yeah. So I have to say before we joined the call, I did go onto eBay, by the way.
Uh-oh.
And I saw just as a quick look, I saw a Lenovo Smart Display 10
Yeah.
in white, currently starting at £50 with no bids.
Yeah. I won't go much higher. I think we could buy them new cheaper than that at one point.
I did then saw another one, a Lenovo Smart Display 7, which I'm guessing is an older model. That's currently at £1.20 with 6 days to go. So yeah, I think they've already started. The cheapest one I saw there from one of the newer, I think it was the 8 display. It was like nearly £100. But yeah, they're going to start to flood. I think you're right. People are going to move away very quickly, aren't they, from these?
Yeah. So if we can find the right ones that have been modded, I can put some nice displays around the house.
I was just thinking that myself. It does sound like an excellent project, but yeah.
Hmm.
So if you do have a Google Assistant, probably best to start thinking about how to migrate away from it. It's my advice.
Start by unplugging and put it in the bin.
No, make sure you recycle. Respectfully, Carl. We don't want to increase landfill because of crap products.
No, we don't. No.
Talking of rubbish, so then over at Twitter, Elon Musk continues to set fire to things. And as of the 1st of April, apparently the legacy tip marks were meant to have gone for from your Twitter
legacy
account.
verified, wasn't
The
it? So
legacy
ones that aren't paying the money.
That's the one, yeah. However, that
check mark
really
strip.
hasn't been the case, has it? It turns out now that they're going to disappear on, wait for it, 420. So that, obviously in American date parlance, is the 20th of April. But of course, if you write that down, 420 is of course the what's the word? The
Elon's favorite pastime.
Yes, for partaking in legally, well, in some jurisdictions, legally available narcotics. Well, his sense of humor really does see no bounds, does it? Because now, if you are one of these companies that has the orange? Is it orange or my yellow? Gold. Sorry, gold check mark, which is the kind of the top organizations on Twitter. You get your golden check logo, and also you retain it. Don't you? You retain your status, and it'll be free now.
Well, yeah. So these are the gold check marks that he's trying to sell for. Was it £1,000? So $1,000 a month, and then $50 a month per extra employee you want verified on top, who obviously works for an organisation. But yeah, I don't think many were buying that. So to save face, he's now saying the 10,000 most followed companies will get it for free. And I think the top 500 advertisers will also get it for free each month. So,
It's just, do you just feel that this is again another Elon U-turn?
well thought out plan.
Oh, 100%. 100%. The revenue, apparently, the ad revenue for Twitter has fallen off a cliff, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Several organizations now have stepped away. One of the things that happened in the last week or so was that Elon Musk had a very, I want to say quick, but that's not the right word, a very shortly, hastily arranged interview with the BBC here in here.
He did, yeah.
And one of the things that he's done there is that is it NPR in the US has pulled away from
Yep,
Twitter, haven't they?
they have,
Because
yeah.
of the way they've been labelled. The BBC particularly was labelled as a government-funded media organisation, which they have taken umbrage with, because the BBC is not funded by the government; it's funded by the licence payer, which effectively means it's publicly funded.
Yeah.
And NPR in the US is the same, publicly funded, but again they were labelled wrongly, weren't they, as well? And have
They were,
decided
yeah.
they've decided to pull any
last
Twitter
straw.
engagement. Yeah. So I think there are weird stuff going on here, isn't it? People, stuff is not changing. You've got Musk pushing the feeds into the the recommended piece. Was it this week as well? Is that Twitter Incorporated no longer exists?
No, it does
According
not.
to a filing in California, it's now called X Corp.
So X Corp was the holding company he used to raise the funds and then buy Twitter, didn't he? So he's merged
Yeah.
Twitter into X Corp, and obviously Twitter doesn't exist anymore. It's now all X Corp.
And because it's no longer publicly traded, this was only discovered, wasn't it? Because somebody was looking into stuff with Twitter, but it would have gone under the radar, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know whether this is his plan to stop people suing Twitter or get rid of all those, but I don't think it's going to work.
I don't think it would. I just don't know what to say here. I mean, what was it the other week with the dog, the Doge logo or whatever it was?
Oh, is that still there? I've lost track. Is that still on there?
No, it's
Dogecoin?
it's gone back, but it was there for a while.
It was, yeah, the Dogecoin. So was that a pump dump scheme of his? Subliminal messaging? I don't know what was going on there. Oh yeah, you're right. The birdie is back.
The amount of people I've seen on Twitter that have said, they've got like a reoccurring post. Some of people, Marcus Hutchins is a good example of this. The security researcher, he has a reoccurring post that basically says, "I'm no longer on Twitter. These are the places you can find me." And I just think to myself, there's so many good people who I used to kind of enjoy reading their content or their updates that have kind of gone. And I get really, really frustrated with this whole For You and the following feed. So the following feed is people I follow in order. The For You feed is people I also follow, but not in order. And it's like, what?
Well, the For You has a lot of people you don't follow, doesn't it? And it's gotten worse and worse with some truly bizarre choices over time. I've had some real random crap in there. I was like, I never clicked anything like that. Why am I getting this as a recommendation? Clearly, the algorithms don't work.
No, but you say that it's people you don't follow, but it's also, when I look at it, there are people in there I do follow.
It's a mixture. It's a mixture of the two, but not in a chronological order.
Thank you. That's what I was about to say. Yeah, that's exactly the point. It's like, well, I find I miss tweets now because I'm like, well, where the heck are they? It just is the dumpster fire. Do you not know? I'll tell you what it is. It's like in The Simpsons, the tire fire.
Yeah,
the tire. That is what Twitter is now. It just continually burns. I think.
Yeah, just looking at that For You. 33 minutes ago, 18 hours ago, 4 hours ago, 20 minutes ago. There's just no rhyme or reason to it.
No, there's not. Absolutely no rhyme or reason. Just chaotic. Yeah, exactly.
Come on, give us a decent alternative.
Well, talking of decent alternatives, how's your phone signal at the minute?
Oh, I don't know. What have I got? I'm not sure. Let's have a look. I have. My Wi-Fi is not going to tell me. What am I on? Let's have a look. Come on. Oh, I've got one 5G and one 3G.
Okay, well then, apparently, according to Nokia, then you're going to be able to get 4G on the moon later this year.
The moon, you say? When are you next off to the moon?
Well, let me just check my calendar. This side of never.
So is this so you can use Instagram and send your holiday pics back?
What for? Is this for the Artemis astronauts? You know, they
Yeah,
turn up.
that's right. Yeah.
There'll be a strong signal already waiting for them.
Yeah, so this is an old one. I had to double read this article and make sure it wasn't April the 1st. uh, yeah, Nokia. So they're planning to launch a 4G network on the moon, and in the coming months, they're going to be using SpaceX to carry what they're calling a Nova C lunar lander, designed by a US company called Intuitive Machine. So in the lander, there's going to be a Nokia base station and a solar-powered rover. Now, apparently, the rocket won't take them all the way to the moon's surface. It will get so far, it will deploy. The lunar lander has its own propulsion system. It will make its way down. It's going to be landing in the Shackleton crater, where it will then obviously
Okay.
deploy its base station along with its solar-powered rover, and they'll be able to communicate over LTE. But apparently, this is also going to be used in NASA's Artemis 1 mission.
So is that lander going to act as a base station for when
It's
the
a
Artemis
relay,
turns up?
yeah.
Then.
So it was, yeah, exactly. So it's gonna be a base station. You'll be able to pick up 4G. The astronauts will be able to communicate with each other, with mission control, obviously via the base station, and as well as to control the rover remotely and stream real-time video and telemetry data back to Earth.
I mean, I'm all for this. Don't get me wrong, right? But I would argue, given that I can't get strong signal, you know, here in my home office, I mean, what are they going to get on the moon? You know,
I guess there's going to be some latency going on here.
gotta be. But I mean, let's be honest. This is what's going to happen. We're going to have 5G or whatever the future equivalent is. They're going to be communication networks, isn't it? There has to be, because you know these you know, landers and the bases we're going to have to put in, there needs to be some kind of communication network for these stuff to work. So you know, it's some kind of OT network, isn't it? Is going to have to exist there. So you know, in a funny kind of way, taking, you know, laughing and joking aside, actually 4G is probably not a bad idea. There's going to be nothing in the way to cause a signal problem, is there? It's going to, you know, there's
this is true. I mean, the bit that made me laugh is they want to prove that commercial 4G technology would work on the moon and provide a decent signal and all that kind of stuff. I guarantee they ain't charging NASA commercial rates.
no.
Oh, that same commercial base station is going to cost way more on the moon.
But why not 5G? That's a bit I don't get. Why? I guess 4G is proven, isn't it? I suppose that's the argument.
It's proven, it's robust, it's got a long... also, less cell towers needed. 5G doesn't go as far, does it?
No, that's probably excuse me. That's probably the other way to do it. But yeah, it just was proven technology, I suppose. Rather
I wonder if we're going back to, you know, 20p a text message and
100,
phone calls by the minute. You know what I mean? Charging
160 characters. Like
that's the one.
Sorry, you've run out of credit. You need to top up, says the lander.
Yeah, pay as you go.
Yeah. Oh dear, yes. Well, but still, this should be interesting to launch. So this this is going to launch later this year on this lander.
This year, yeah, apparently they're basically ready to go, and I think they're waiting for, you know, clearance and a launch window.
Yeah, and the Artemis mission obviously is not going to launch this year to the moon, as it meant, but we're going to have the first Artemis flyby, aren't we? So later, I think it is later this year. Is going to be the first, like they did with Apollo 10. It's going to fly around the moon and basically do a flyby, test the systems.
That's the one.
And then the following one will be like Apollo 11, and we'll land on the moon, and we're going to go back there, which is awesome. I mean, and the Artemis system, you know, there's the Orion spacecraft, the SLS. We've got the Gateway project, which is a space station they're going to go put up near the moon. You know, we're going to have the base camps. I mean, this is phenomenal. You know, and Artemis 1 is what we've had, which is was the uncrewed flight 1. Artemis 2 they haven't done a patch for that yet, apparently. And then Artemis 3 is the first crewed mission to the moon. We're both big fans of this and can't wait to see it. But yeah, let's see what phones they've got. I want to see an astronaut with a Nokia 3310. That has to be it.
I was actually having this conversation with the kids earlier because we were talking about how much technology is going to move forward, especially phones. And we were saying, we had that exact conversation. You know, the 160 character limit, it used to cost you, I don't know, 20p a text message. And that was only if it was on your network. If it was going to someone else's network, it was more expensive. Or you couldn't do it originally. Yeah, and I showed them a Nokia 3310. And I mean, my original phone was a Siemens S6, which didn't even do text messaging to start off with because the carriers didn't support it. But we were having that conversation about, how much has changed. And my son was like, "Well, couldn't you just download an app and do it for free?" There were no apps.
App? What's an
You
app?
were lucky if you had Snake. There were no apps. There was no internet on your phone to send it over. So yeah, it was an expensive proposition back then.
Different times, my friend. Different times.
Definitely.
So then, before we fire up the Tech Rant Rumor Mill, just a little update for anybody that's interested in Steve Jobs and a free book. So the Steve Jobs Archive yesterday released a free ebook, which talks is in their words, memorializing. What a terrible American word. Memorializing. That's the one. His life, his career, and it's a collection of edited emails, speeches, and interviews over his lifetime around, Apple. I've had a look at it. I got it free in Apple books, but you can also download an EPUB to put on a Kindle or other device. And there are also several pictures in there as well that have never been released before. And it's been, I think, overall managed by Lorraine Powell Jobs, his widow, and has been professionally edited as well. And, it talks around, a lot of his ethos and what he saw in his life. There are, transcripts of meetings that have never been shared outside of it. It's really, if you think about a companion book to some of the biographies that have come out beforehand. Again, it's free. I would say if you're interested in his life, some things in there you will have seen or read before. I'm confident of that if you're into that thing. But I think it would be amiss of us not to talk about, that there is this free book there. And actually, for what I've read, for all of his faults as a man, as a boss, what you see in reading it is that he did undergo a learning journey, I think, and that whole point of where he got fired from Apple and that, and you can read that in some of the transcripts of the interviews that he had and some of the emails. And, actually, I think people forget, given the fact he's been dead now, what, nearly 12 years, isn't it? Yeah, it must be 12 years. Actually, he was a visionary, Yeah. He may not have been, a Gordon Moore or someone else who created stuff, but he was a visionary in what he wanted to achieve. And in one of, there's two things I wanted just to mention in the book, and I can't remember the exact interview, but one of them talks around when they were talking about the Mac, and he wanted to put a Mac in everybody's house, and he talked about them being connected by a radio network, and he said, connected to the source, and he said we can't do it now. He said it's technologically impossible now to do it, but we need to connect them. We're nearly able to connect them in the office, and in the future we're going to be able to connect them in the home. I can't tell you why you want to have them connected. I can't tell you what information you're going to have on them, but we know you're going to want to do that. And in that sentence, it was like you've just talked about the internet. And not the the World Wide Web, the team, but the internet we know today.
Yeah.
And then there was another example where he talks about in the mid 90s, where he says about how the online shopping is changing. And he goes, I've just bought a Sony camcorder. He said, I went to Sony's website. I read all about the models. I looked at all of the features and that before I even called, and this dates it, before I even called around any of the stores to see if they had any stock.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, that's, for the majority of people, that's what you do now. You go straight to the website, you look at the product, you check out the features, then you see who's got it in stock and you buy it. And today, you as a business, you can't be viable without a website, for any product.
No, I very rarely go to an actual store to buy something, or certainly not electronics. It's the kind of things you'd go and research.
And I just thought to myself, him saying that was just like, back whenever it was 95, 96, in the early days of websites, whatever it was. But he was true, and he said there, this is what, this is how we'll do everything. But it was just, again, it was the visionary idea of, like you said, with the connecting the Macs together as a network. We don't know why you're, like his words, we don't know why you want to do it. We don't know what information you're going to want to access, but we know it's going to happen. And and it was interesting, like, we can't do it now. It's technologically impossible, but we will get there. And I thought to myself, you know what? You were right. Everybody, the whole, and he talked also around about putting the Mac in a book, foreshadowing the MacBook. We want to squeeze it down to book so you can go somewhere, you can have that access. And, ultimately he got there, didn't he, with the MacBook? He got there with the iPhone. But,
I'd say that was the iPad, really, wasn't it? That is the book.
Yeah, but they did. They had the MacBooks as well, didn't they? Remember as well?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The old MacBooks. But yeah, it just It just was interesting. So I'd say if you get it, it's a free book. It's not going to cost you
Just
anything.
downloaded it.
Download it and have a look at it. So then, with that, then let me fire up there. Hang on, where is it?
Indeed,
There we
it's
go.
that time again.
It is. What have you got for us then, Carl?
I'm still scratching my head at this one. I just can't get my head around it. But Apple have filed a patent in the US, obviously, for an AirPods case with a built-in touchscreen, similar to the kind of thing you get on your Apple Watch. It's apparently it's going to offer media controls and even basic apps such as maps, weather, and notifications. Why?
I don't know. I'm laughing because I remember this. You're like, the best way to picture it, isn't it? Obviously, until you look at the show notes, is you've got the Apple AirPods case with what effectively looks like on this render a Apple Watch screen built into it, doesn't it?
It is, yeah. I was just trying to run this through in my head. I was like, okay, so if you've already got a watch and a phone, why would you need another screen to control your media? Because you've got it on your wrist. I thought, okay, well, if you don't have a watch, maybe. But I was thinking, you don't wander around holding the case in your hand. So it's going to be in your pocket or it's going to be in your bag, in which case that's where your phone is. So why would you need the case with the screen?
I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know. It was no mention in the patent about having storage. So I can kind of understand if it had storage on board. Maybe you put your songs on there. Well, you'd have to put it because it has no internet connections. You'd have to load them on it,
Okay.
iPod. But there was no mention of storage. So yeah,
So
I'm at a loss. Why?
Is this for somebody who doesn't have an Apple Watch? So if you think at the moment, Apple Watch, you can go on there and you can control the media on the
That's
Apple
what I'm
Watch
saying.
screen.
But you don't
Yeah,
hold your case all the time.
No, but I
It's
guess
going to
it's
be in your pocket or your bag, exactly where your
yeah,
phone is.
yeah. I
So
guess you pull it
why
out.
the screen on it? But then you do that with your phone.
I don't know. I agree with you. It puzzles the hell out of me as well. I mean, it's fair to say, as we say, just to be a caveat this, as we all do a lot of stuff, that Apple put lots of patents out every year. Not everything comes to life, and again, some of these things just are an idea to stop somebody else doing it, aren't they? But who knows? Who knows? Stranger things have happened with Apple. I would say it's not unusual for them to come up with these things.
Yep.
Let's see where this goes. But yes, very peculiar. Very peculiar. Why Apple? Why? But who knows? Okay. So with that there, I think it's probably a good place for us to wrap up for today. We will be back next week for episode 130 of the Weekly Tech Rant. Of course, you can find all our show notes at techrant.online. And of course, we still are on the new Twitter at Weekly Tech Rant. And yeah, I think, if you, as always, leave us a comment, leave us a thought, tell us what you think. We're always open to your suggestions. If we've got it wrong or you think we're completely crazy, drop us a line and let us know. We're happy to take your feedback. Doesn't mean we'll listen to it, but we're happy to take your feedback. Okay, with that, I've been Jay. Catch you later.
Carl. Have a good evening, all.